Londoners pause to remember VE Day 8 decades on, and reminders of the conflict, the scars from the Blitz that are still dotted across the capital. Across the capital, people have been gathering to mark the end of the war in Europe 80 years ago today. Earlier, many observed a 2-minute silence. Meanwhile, preparations are underway for a concert at Horse Guards Parade later. Well, it's close to where thousands gathered on this day back in 1945. Well, some of those who were there at the time have been sharing their memories of what VE Day was like.
I was here on VE Day with my mum and dad and my older brother, and we came to see the King and the Queen and Churchill come out on the balcony and celebrate everything with all these thousands of people all the way up the Mall and singing, dancing and just having a great time at the end of the war.
My mum, Gwen Tucker, celebrated VE Day in Fleet Street. She was 17 and did talk about the atmosphere and how ecstatic everyone was and the feeling of liberation and the hope of better things to come.
One of my best memories, of course, when we had a street party on the 8th of May, and I remember, because it was my birthday, I stood on a chair and they all sang happy birthday, and I got extra helping with jelly.
I was 8 years old when we came down to see the celebrations. Mum and Dad were absolute royalists, and Dad was in the London Fire Service. There was people on each other's shoulders, there was people clapping, there was people cheering, there was people hugging and kissing each other. It was just amazing.
My mum left school at 14 and started her job in Fetter Lane at Shaw's, a printer's. She was an office junior there. She carried on doing her part for the war, working in central London, despite all the dangers that involved.
It was a time of real worry for parents and for family and for everybody as a whole. But everybody looked after each other, everybody was one big family.
I think on VE Day, my mum would have been feeling relief, excitement. She would have felt joyous to be amongst her friends and just savouring every moment of that really special day.
There was this great sense of relief and happiness and joy, and dancing about in the street and doing the conga, I remember as a boy. I thought it was a touch of madness.
I will be celebrating VE Day with some friends, and we will be having songs and recollections of what went on during the war and a glass to celebrate that we've made this 80th year this year.
Now, it may have ended 80 years ago, but in many parts of the capital, you'll still find reminders of the conflict, from damaged buildings to underground spaces designed to protect people. Wendy Hurrell has been taking a look at the scars the city still bears.
Sirens and flames night after night when the Blitz began in London in 1940.
Never since the Great Fire of 1666 has such a roaring furnace swept through our capital.
The priority then was to protect lives. Air raid shelters were being built in gardens across the capital. Today, very few survive. This Anderson shelter behind terraced houses in Oval saved a family's life when a bomb fell nearby.
That dash from house to here in an air raid must have been terrifying.
Absolutely. You'd have come out of the house clutching your gas mask. In the middle of the night, it would have been pitch black, planes going overhead, sirens going, and just to understand this is how people had to survive and live is important.
The Luftwaffe is again making night hideous.
London was again bombarded later in the war. A fragment from that violent episode survives on this street in Westminster.
It's just so poignant. This was once inside a home, and that blast wiped out, of course, this house, but also a number of houses along this street and a few of the surrounding ones as well.
From the first bombing raids early in the war, right up until 1944 and the second wave, an estimated 12,000 metric tons of bombs fell on London and 30,000 civilians were killed. The damage here is left as a memorial to those people, and it's who we think about on VE Day. Wendy Hurrell, BBC London.
Well, there's lots more on that on our website at bbc.co.uk/London, along with live coverage of all of today's events.
It's been a day of celebration and commemoration in London, with a 2-minute silence held to mark the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War in Europe. Victory in Europe, VE Day, saw Germany surrender to the Allies. And today, as it happened back then, parties were held across London to honour those who served and remember those we lost. And those commemorations continue this evening at St Paul's Cathedral, where a gold-plated lamp will be lit shortly before making its way to Tower Bridge to illuminate the central London landmark. Well, Helen Keenan reports now on how the capital remembered the heroes.
A tune used to boost morale in World War II, now sang by the youth of today, learning about their sacrifice.
For all the people who died, we're celebrating that they saved us.
It's a very big deal, as it marked the end of the war that many people from our country sacrificed their lives to.
And how about you?
It was very, we're respecting all of the veterans and the people who lost their families due to the war.
In Windrush Square in Brixton, dignitaries gathered and the flag was raised to mark Victory in Europe Day, Germany's unconditional surrender of its armed forces on the 8th of May 1945, ending World War II.
In order that future generations should enjoy the blessings of freedom, democracy and peace.
One of the things that we really wanted to do here in Lambeth, we adapted the proclamation to make sure we represented those from the Caribbean and Africa who served, and really without them, we wouldn't be here today celebrating victory in Europe.
In Westminster Abbey, the royal family arrived for a Thanksgiving service. Both the King and Prince William laying wreaths to honour the fallen. And as the clock struck 12, they joined in a 2-minute silence. A moment echoed across London. Here, in Charing Cross, veterans who now work for TfL met to discuss the importance of today.
These are the Afghanistan tour's medal. I was doing an Afghanistan tour, clearing an ID, and during that period I stepped on one of them and blown off my left leg.
Set 4, that is my uncle's medals. He was out in Burma. I think it's important to remember all the service personnel, whether they're with us still or they had an unfortunate accident in the war or passed on.
Alongside the commemorations were celebrations. In Leadenhall Market, a 1940s-inspired street party.
I think it's absolutely great that people are coming to celebrate really a big occasion for the country, and I think it's well to remember it, So it's good to celebrate and good to remember.
I've come to join in the celebrations. I think it's vital, it's very important that we remember. Remembrance goes on forever, and I don't think there'll be many occasions like this where we'll have the opportunity to remember.
An event to signify the relief and happiness that will have been felt that day, and to remember them 80 years on. Helen Keenan, ITV News.
Well, to mark the occasion, pubs are allowed to stay open for an extra 2 hours today, meaning venues will be serving until 1 a.m. Well, Daisy Bussell is at the 1940s-themed cocktail bar Cahoots in Soho. Daisy, what's the plan for the evening then?
Yes, good evening. I'm here at Cahoots. Hello, yes, good evening. I'm here at Cahoots just off of Carnaby Street where VE Day celebrations are very much getting underway. It was on this day in 1945 that licensing hours were extended to give everyone kind of time to have an extra couple of drinks to celebrate the end of war in Europe. And now 80 years on, the exact same thing is happening in venues across the capital, staying up late to commemorate that night of celebrations. I'm joined now by the co-founder of Cahoots, Charlie Gilks. Charlie, how are we celebrating tonight?
Well, it's always 1940s here at Cahoots, and today's an amazing celebration. It's when we remember the sacrifices that that generation gave for us and the resilience of Londoners. I'm drinking a Berlin cocktail, which is always on our menu, along with our Winston Churchill cocktails. We've got 1940s singers, we've got lots of people coming dressed appropriately for the period, and we're really happy to be here to gather together and to remember that amazing sacrifice and that amazing day 80 years ago today.
And 80 is a special one.
It really is, and I think sadly it's one of the last times we might be able to thank those World War II veterans who are still around. And I think there are about 300,000 left in the world, but this is to them, and thank you, and we're here to celebrate tonight.
Great. Well, as Charlie said, here at Cahoots, it's always the 1940s. As you can see, we've got the bunting, the Union flags, the memorabilia, and everyone here is ready for a proper victory knees up.
Who was in Lancaster bomber, rear gunner in the First World War, and lots of other relatives. So it's sort of symbolic to be here to sort of celebrate the end of the First World War.
Well, I think my dad was a Bevan boy in the war, and then he was a chef for the Royal Air Force, and we're here for the VE celebrations. So we're going to go to the Albert Hall later.
I was only 4, but I remember the street parties very well. I don't remember a lot about it, only being 4 years old, but I remember a lot of things about the war, but not VE Day. So it's quite a lot of memories.
Well, as you can see, everybody's in the spirit of things here. I hope you are too, and wishing everybody a happy VE Day. I think it's time for a drink. Cheers.
Oh, cheers, Daisy. Thanks very much indeed.
And celebrating, but I also spoke to a veteran. I had the honour of speaking to him about his memories of the war and why for him he would be celebrating, but today was also very bittersweet.
It's a day of remembrance for me, because I lost so many friends during the war, and yeah, I do think of them a lot. You know, it's they're all good. They were all good friends. That one friend in particular, so he was a fighter pilot and he crashed.
What was his name, sir?
Teddy Knight. He was a fighter pilot, and Typhoons, I think it was, he was on.
And that's who you're going to be remembering today?
Oh yes, and also all my other friends that got killed. There was quite a few that got killed flying, you know.
You'll raise a glass?
Oh yeah, or two.
Picture of the VE Day street party.
Where are you in this picture?
My sister, me, my baby sister, my big sister and me.
And what do you remember of this day? What was the atmosphere like?
Wonderful. Wonderful. Everybody was relieved and hoping that their loved ones come home. If you had sixpence, they'd share it with you. My dad used to breed chickens and rabbits. No one went hungry at Christmas.
About 100 people in attendance today. We will be doing a beacon lighting as per the King's request later on today, and there'll be poetry, wartime poetry, music and traditional fish and chips on offer as well for everyone in attendance.
Well, that beacon will be lit around 8 p.m. today, and there will be music, poetry, and as you heard, fish and chips, so what's not to love? Here, a beautiful, beautiful bench has been placed in St Mary the Virgin's Church in Swanley. As you can see, helmets being thrown in the air, just capturing a moment on that day, the 8th of the 5th, 1945, 80 years ago today. But as you heard there from Warrant Officer Len Spratz, he is also going to be thinking a lot about other people who lost their lives. So while for many they're going to be celebrating tonight, also spare a moment for some of the names listed on memorials around the region.
Well, let's return to our top story this evening as the capital commemorates the 80th anniversary of victory in Europe. The owner of the Air Raid Shelter Cafe in High Wycombe has teamed up with residents at a local care home to produce a song for the fallen generation. Goodbye, My Friend tells the story of childhood sweethearts Albert and Winifred from their first meeting in wartime through to the present day. Rags Martel has their story.
Welcome to the Air Raid Shelter Cafe and Tea Room. Let me show you around.
Step into the 1940s.
So we like to tell the story of World War II. This is our army section.
This cafe in High Wycombe, just west of London, serves up wartime memories in a labyrinth-like shelter.
This is the Anderson shelter where you can have a quirky tea. Every house in the 40s had an outdoor toilet. This is the Kazi.
I just wanted to create a really fun destination, but also an educational destination, but more importantly, a thank you to the generation. So we have a railway station, we have a village hall, we just have our new Churchill room, we have the Royal Tea Room, we have a little house, a living room, a kitchen, so you can come and eat in these quirky random places and maybe learn a little bit along the way.
These are all our veterans. We call this the thank you wall.
And on VE Day, obviously, there's a party going on.
You have the village hall here, with obviously our 1940s singer.
He puts the boys to sleep with boogie every night.
Among the guests here, people who celebrated victory in Europe the first time round.
How important is it to remember VE Day?
I think it's very important because we don't want to see the likes of this again.
What do you remember from the day itself?
In the evening, a lady down the road put her piano out in the road and we had a sort of dance and sing-song. But see, I was very young and so I wasn't allowed to stay very long.
I think the diet that we had during the war, the dried egg and the lack of sugar and all those other things, probably was a very good thing. We didn't think so at the time, but...
He was a famous trumpet man from out Chicago way.
But the Air Raid Shelter has lost its battle with the High Street. It will be closing its doors next month.
It's hard for all of us at the moment, and I've just had to take the decision that I can't keep going in this location. So hopefully if anyone has any ideas where we might be able to pop up again one time in the future, I feel like I owe it to all those veterans to come back.
But Chris is going out with a ballad. Goodbye, my friend. Recording this song about love and war.
The song's called Goodbye, My Friend. It's the ups and downs of life, which all our parents or grandparents of that generation have been through. We're really proud of it and we hope that people support it.
The video for the song features residents of the Star and Garter care home. Some customers also helped out with the recording, but today, in more ways than one, the hope in the Air Raid Shelter Cafe was that they would all somehow meet again. Rags Martel, ITV News, High Wycombe.
Oh, that's lovely.
And that is all from us here outside Buckingham Palace, which became a focal point on that historic day 80 years ago. Today has been about remembrance, commemorations and celebrations. But it's also a reminder, still relevant today, about the cost of war and the fragility of peace. There's more on VE Day and, of course, that news of the new Pope on BBC News Online. Thanks for watching and being with us on this significant day. We leave you with some of the pictures from this week marking a poignant anniversary. Take care. Bye-bye.